Yeah. We have that energy, sir. We want you to feel that. We would like to invite you to the stage to inaugurate this auspicious occasion and kickstart the proceedings. Please, sir, if you could. Thank you, everybody. There are over 63 million MSMEs in India, and they constitute 30% of our country's total GDP, 40% of our country's entire manufacturing output, and 50% of our country's exports. The importance of technology and digitization in this sector can hardly be ignored. And to throw further light on the subject, we have amongst us some of the prominent thought leaders in the industry who will help us understand the essence and importance of digitization and how digitization and hybrid accounting is poised to affect the future of MSMEs. Before I invite the panelists to stage, I would like to invite the founders, Shri Kapil Rana and Biswajit Mishra, to the stage to receive our guests. First up, we have Shri Vikram Gera. He's the chairman of NZIBA, Australia, New Zealand, and India Business Association. He's also the co-chairman of both International Affairs Committee and Direct Stack Committee at PhD Chamber of Commerce. Vikramji has vast experience dealing with some of the top Fortune 500 companies and significant experience with government regulatory bodies both at a domestic and international level. He's also associated with both the British and European Business Group and prominent industry bodies such as ASSOCHAM, FICCI, CII, and both the Indo-American and Indo-German Chamber of Commerce. Welcome, sir. Next, we have Shri Avatar Singh Monga. He has been with the financial and banking industry for almost 38 years and has been associated with some of the biggest global companies such as Bank of America and GE Capital. He is, however, more recently popularly known for being the person responsible for launching IDFC Bank. He's extremely active in the startup ecosystem. He's a board member of FinTech Association for Consumer Empowerment, or FACE. Welcome, sir. Next, we have Shri Kamal Agarwal. We could say Kamalji is a bit of an original gangster when it comes to accounting. He's one of those rare professionals who has the privilege to play with all the big four boys: PwC, Deloitte, KPMG, and EY. He currently heads the indirect tax practice at Sark and Associates. Kamalji is a faculty at various institutes and a regular speaker at various chambers of commerce. Welcome, sir. And finally, we have Shri Pitam Goyal, the chairman of NICASA of NIRC under ICAI. He's also the founder of Tattvam Group, which specializes in holistic valuations, indirect taxes, risk management, GST, and due diligence. He is known for his vast body of work that includes research papers and articles that have been published in numerous reputed national and international publications. He's also an active speaker at various conferences, seminars, and workshops. An interesting fact about Pitamji is that as a student, he held merit positions at an all-India level during all stages of his chartered accountancy education. Let's give it up. Welcome, sir. Welcome, everybody, and thank you so much for being here. So before we deep dive, I would like to start the discussion with some high-level views from our panelists. And we would like to understand the role of digitization and business compliances for MSMEs. Let's start with Vikramji. Vikramji, your thoughts?
Thank you. Thank you very much. It's a great honor to be here. And good evening to everyone once again. And thank you, Bishwajit, for this opportunity for sharing my thoughts with all of you. I'll start my evening address with a quote from Bhagavad Gita, which says that a person can rise through the efforts of his own mind or draw himself down in the same manner, because each person is his own friend or enemy. So before we delve into the topic actually, I want to share a few thoughts which says that the challenges faced by the MSME sector today. The first is the ease of doing business. There are regulatory issues. Most Indian startups encounter this issue in their early phases because of an overabundance of rules and regulations. Even though India has improved its ranking in the World Bank's Ease of Doing Business Index, the system still has major flaws that inhibit businesses from growing and prospering. And just for the benefit of everyone, I must share that India has reached the 40th rank for ease of doing business yesterday. So I think it's a great opportunity for all of us. And in 2015, India was rated as 81. And in the last few years, we've reached the age of 40. The second is the lack of funds. Despite the government's efforts to make business loans more freely accessible and encourage entrepreneurship, most companies still have difficulty getting financing or applying for an MSME loan. Regulatory flaws that cause delays in obtaining permits and insurance can harm the chances of small and medium enterprises. A lack of resources hampers most firms when it comes to producing their products, buying raw materials on time, or even gaining access to innovative technologies and expertise. The third is lack of financial know-how. Even as entrepreneurs devise new tactics and growth prospects, there are still those who lack the financial know-how to properly manage their businesses. Some entrepreneurs may not make key business decisions relating to MSME loans if they lack prudent financial expertise. Your firm could be in jeopardy because of a lack of financial expertise unless you seek outside help. The fourth is technological advancement. Technological advancement have been plentiful and most industries have experienced some sort of transformation to stay competitive. Although because of lack of experience and awareness, many firms are missing out on the latest technology advancement in their industry. The fifth is labor. Indian MSMEs lag far behind their international counterparts in terms of technical expertise due to their reliance on low-wage, informal workers who do not possess the necessary education or training to contribute significantly to production. The sixth is trust concerns. Banks are reluctant to provide MSME loans because the amounts that are still tiny and because they believe MSMEs lack the repayment capabilities. The seventh is collateral for loans. A rigorous collateral requirement can make it problematic for some businesses to access an MSME loan. The eighth is absence of standardized policies. In India, just a few policies are in place to support small and medium-sized businesses. As a result, MSME growth and entrepreneurship development program lacks coherence. The ninth is impact of the challenges that the MSMEs face. Due to MSMEs' low efficiency, mismanagement, and poor workplace conditions, growth has been difficult to achieve. So I think those were my thoughts. I think you can take on with that.
Avatarji, next up, I would like to know, what are your thoughts on the role of digitization in MSMEs? And
So it's a pleasure to be here, and I think it's an important step in our journey. My understanding, given the fact that I come from a bank and I've seen the rural and the last mile, as we call it, sector actually, very closely. So I think a couple of things have happened in the last 10, 12, 15 years, especially after Aadhaar was launched. There has been significant push in terms of making sure that every Indian, at least, directionally has a banking relationship. But the other side of this is that it has been restricted to a very small level of relationship and hasn't gone beyond that. Effectively, it's been just left with receiving some, subsidy and all those things, but very little beyond that. The other thing is, in the post-demonetization space, there's been huge amount of expansion in terms of people being able to understand technology, but technology restricted to the payment technologies. So a smallest of the small vendor actually has at least the understanding up to, say, a payment which is QR code or something similar. But anything beyond that is still to take any shape. So the points Vikram made earlier, that there is a huge market out there, and that market has to be explored with the agenda that every person who's part of the economy, because we heard 40-50% contribution there, has the ability to leverage the overall country's capability, both in terms of being able to raise credit at a reasonable price. But in that space, we all know money lender business in the smaller towns and other areas. And the unfortunate thing is, even today, a large portion of those people actually are denied a formal credit because the information which is being sought is not available or is very limited. Two things one can definitely think. One is creating systems like what we're doing here, which allow you to put in my understanding, probably 8-10% of the business is today formal in the last mile. It could actually be 100%. So that's one shift, which is definitely a huge opportunity. The second thing is when you do a formal credit, there's a huge cost which comes down. So that'll be the second step. And the third thing is the fact that you're now going to do a business which is going to be managed out of, all this technology-driven components like Neo. There is going to be a significant improvement in terms of how the business itself is run. So it has all those opportunities where on one hand you can actually get better credit access because you'll have the ability to showcase the data also. Now the government is also proposing the idea of actually creating credit which is not based on the balance sheet of the past, but the recent transaction history of the business. So if you have the ability to capture your entire business digitally in a real time and then provide that information for the lenders to make a decision, you'll save a lot of that. So I think it's holistically, it's a huge space, and there is a need for people like the Neo team here to create systems, technologies which make the business efficient, cheaper to run, better to manage, and a lot of other things. So I think it's a big space, and I'm sure our launch of this application, which provides for a lot of things we'll talk about in detail, will be a big step. So thanks.
Thank you so much, sir. Kamalji, with you, I would like to push that question a little further and say, when you have these digitizations in MSME, how do you think it will transform the individual business or the entrepreneur? And what do you think is going to be the impact of it on the economy, the larger economy?
Okay. Thanks, HostBooks, Kapil and Vishwajit for having me here this evening. And what we are talking about, it's extremely important topic because as you numbers that you read out, it contributes significantly to the nation's GDP and more towards employment at a very grassroots level. And many of us would have come from families which actually are having MSME in their households. I come from a very small town, and all my cousins, uncles, they are all run the businesses which fall into typical MSME. And so when we talk about technology, when we talk about their contribution to the national economy, I think these things as integrated into each other. And if I can take you back to the days when we were talking about introduction of GST, and there was a discussion going on that introduction of GST would add 2 percentage points to our GDP. So why was that? The business was being done, GST has changed nothing on the ground, only because the GST was a self-compliance driven mechanism, and therefore bringing more and more transactions into the books. Okay, and the moment more and more transactions comes into the book, our parallel economy, as we call it, gets into a formal economy. That's the basis of it. And I would also like to mention, contrary to popular belief, and I mentioned this at a number of conferences where I keep addressing the commissioners and additional commissioners, that by and large people are willing to comply with the laws, pay their due taxes, but they are scared of difficulties that are associated with it, the harassments that comes associated with it. And if you look at MSME, typically there are 1% or 2% driven organizations. So that 1% has to manage procurement, sales, employees. Okay, he has to look into their families also. He has kids also who goes to the school and all of that. So the accounting or the tax compliances are not really very high up on his agenda. Okay, and that creates a lot of these things. So with the people like Neo, what they're doing, it's great job not only for MSME but for the national GDP, because it would ease their pain, have more and more transactions into the system, and therefore eventually it gets converted into GDP. So what is GDP? It's a sum total of all transactions being done by businesses and other identified sectors. So that's my take is that the more and more transactions we are able to bring, which Avtaji has also mentioned, that it got restricted only to the payment. It has to span through the entire ecosystem. Okay, And that's gradually being done, okay? And the tools like it would accelerate that transformation. That's my belief.
Thank you. Pitamji, your thoughts on the same. Essentially, how do you think digitization is going to transform the individual entrepreneur at a micro level? And at a macro level, how do you think a number of entrepreneurs like that could affect the economy?
First of all, thanks HostBook for inviting me out here. It's an honor for me to be out here. Coming to the MSME sector, so my father, my family, they are into food grains business, and we all know how this MSME sector runs upon. All sales, purchase, vouchers, they are just putting up on a single nail, and they're just punching over the nail itself about the debtor collections and the vendor payments, what they need to make upon, is being managed by them manually. When we talk about the digitalization for the MSME, definitely digitalization is the need of the era. This dynamic environment coming into the picture, digitalization will help the MSME sectors to map their vendor accounts, will help them to map their debtor account. They can get on a single click the details of the debtor spending, the summaries of their collections, the summaries of the vendor payment. For a MSME, it's only a simple thing, sales and purchase. धंधे की बात करें तो कितना मैंने माल बेचा, कितना मैंने माल खरीदा. That is something which they need at the end of the day, what debtors they need to pay, what debtors they need to collect upon, what vendors they need to make the payment. Digitalization definitely would help them. They will help them to get the statements fortnightly, monthly, weekly, whatever the time site they want to set upon. The second thing is with regard to the integration of the indirect tax payments, which Kamalji was talking about, the GST component. The indirect tax, the GST returns has to be filed on a monthly basis. So in case we are going digitally, this will help you to file your returns along with the taxes on a proper way with regard to the deadlines which we need to comply to. The data, in a digital platform, there is no duplication of the data. There is transparency to the data. There is an audit trail also, which is very well reflected in the Companies Act 2013 manuals recently initiated by them. The third thing is with regard to the integration of the direct tax returns, जो हम income tax returns file करते हैं, income tax returns as well as the GST returns, the turnover which we are mapping in our income tax returns. Because if we are filing our returns under presumptive taxation 44AB, then we will be filing our returns on the basis of only turnover. There is no criteria with regard to any of the expenditures, any of the other parameters. So the turnover there is a paramount important thing. So in case of a digitalization, this will help us to integrate with our books, with our GST returns, with our income tax returns. So the error, the chances of the error would be very minimized, or you may say it will be nullified. And coming to the loans, the lenders for the MSME sector, I do understand for MSME sectors, taking the loans from the banks is a difficult job, but still there is a CGT MSME scheme is there. Then against collateral, you get the schemes. The Mudra loan was there. So once you have that credit limits going on, you need to submit your statements to the bankers with regard to the drawing power calculations. So that is something, in case you are having a digital platform, that is something which will help you to calculate before submitting to the banks. As Kamalji told, as everyone in the panel is told, that it's MSME, it's only a matter of 1, 2, 3 individuals running a business. For them to calculate a DP, it becomes a difficult job. So once digitalization is there, they can calculate the DP and they can submit it to the banks, and that will ultimately flow to your financial statements, which will be ultimately forming the Bible for your GST returns and the income tax returns, which are the compliance part. Coming to the economy component, well, economy part with regard to the digitalization. Once the MSME formalize, MSME has told in the inaugural speech itself that 40% of the GDP is from the MSME sector, 50% of the export is from the MSME sector. So this itself is a humongous amount. If we talk about the volume, if we talk about the transaction, it's a humongous amount. So digitalization will further help in multiplying these sales network, in multiplying these data centers network. Digitalization will help in data collation by the MSME sector itself for the future mapping, which will help for their betterment also, for the economy betterment also.
Thank you. Historically, MSMEs have either managed their compliances either manually or they use technology in a fractured way, which is multiple apps to serve multiple little purposes. Now, with entities like HostBooks, which are creating solutions that brings all of those services under one roof and rather creates an ecosystem so that one can have hybrid accounting. Vikramji, if you could help us understand what exactly is hybrid accounting and how can MSMEs benefit from it?
You know, what I understand, I'm sure there are fellow more educated, and I have a topper sitting next to me, he would be in a better position to explain, but hybrid accounting as a layman, what I understand is that you have some accounts manually and some accounts digitally. And so that's the mix that lot of our, I mean, I would go back and say that even our clients are handling. It's not a set system as such, and there's no set process, as my fellow panelists said, that that's the major challenge with MSMEs, that there is no set pattern that how they are. And most of it is, you know, one or two people holding the business. And that's the reason why they cannot, and in a lot of times I've observed that they don't even have a full-time accountant for them. And that is where the major challenge happens. And in fact, today's date is also very, very significant. And if we had it on the 1st of October, I'm sure there would be many more participants because of the last date of filing the tax audits. So a lot of our fellow colleagues are also stuck in office because of this very reason, that they're not able to get out of the office. And as usual, the MSMEs comes on the last date for filing their tax audits. That's the major challenge that we have. Yeah.
I can concur with you from my own personal experience. I usually call off my chartered accountant 2 days before the last date. So, the moment, now that we are looking at solutions that are looking to digitize MSMEs, and once these solutions go into function, the one thing that is going to happen is a lot of data that is otherwise unstructured will become structured, and it will be available for study. Now, Avatarji, if you could just help us understand, how do you think this data at a micro level helps entities create better products and services for MSMEs? And maybe at a macro level, does it help entities liaison with the government and give them maybe inputs for maybe policy decisions? I mean, does it have an implication of that side in terms of data generated by apps like this?
So I think when so I'll answer in both parts. First part is about the business itself. You know, I've seen, even in our own case, people who are kind of reasonably automated, getting access to information is a big channel. And you don't find it when you need it, you only find we don't need it. So having a go-to place which gives you information you need to make business decisions any given time. And it's, you know, the other thing is it's available with you all the time, because you're talking about a mobile application, and mobile is, you know, something which probably is the closest to you. Even if you take the family view, family is still not as close as mobile. Mobile is the closest equipment in your life. So to me, it's like 24/7, one touch information availability, and not just for that day, but also for historic period. And then we talked about the model where we have a seamless integration between the cloud and the mobile and the you know, desktop versions of what we are offering in the HostBooks. So to me, that itself changes the way the business is going to get run. Information availability, decision power, being able to look at information and make some competitive decisions in terms of buying, selling, putting some trends into your thinking in terms of how the price movement has been taking place. You know, otherwise it's all memory driven. Now you'll be able to see a lot of data. So I think it brings, we heard compliances, we heard tax filing on time, we heard the benefits of, you know, getting a cheaper access to money, which I talked about earlier. Ability to delegate to other people, still monitor remotely, that's another big thing, because otherwise physically you have to be at the shop to know what's happening there. But if you put everything on a system, you could be anywhere in the world and you could still be monitoring your business. So there are a lot of those things which will be meaningful for the individual or the MSME or the people who are running business. If you go to the other side, which is the aggregated data which is going to be made available, we all know that the government has put a lot of focus on this area, and there is a requirement for all financial institutions, not just banks, but also NBFCs, to actually separately track what is happening with this sector, and that information is compiled and reported. So obviously there's fair amount of interest in tracking how much progress this sector is making. So all that data also gets used by of course, the government and the RBI and other people who are the regulatory body for the financial industry to assess the trends of which sector is getting what benefit. I think you must have recently said, Mr. Prime Minister, speak about the khilona making in India. You know, that's a typical example of an industry which he picked up, and it's grown significantly. Now that entire industry is actually run in these small factories where 8, 10, 15 people are actually making those wooden toys. So there is obviously inherent policy, interest, tracking and monitoring at the government level. And the purpose of all of that is to make sure the agenda is being delivered, that is somebody's paying attention and it's getting done. The other thing is to also formulate policy which will promote this Make in India, which is largely sitting here in this bucket. And that's where the whole interest is. So I think it's going to be a huge benefit both for the policymakers, for the lenders in the formal sector, the regulatory environments in terms of how they will keep fine-tuning the policy so that this is progressing further. And for the individual business, as I said earlier, it's a very different shift, because you will get a lot more. In my view, automation brings 30–40% efficiency. You can spend that much extra time doing other things which you normally waste on doing, flipping. I'll give you a file with 1,000 sheets to tell you to find one balance sheet or paper which was filed 16 years ago. It'll take you 1 week. On a computer, I will do a F search. It'll take 5 seconds. That's the power. So 40 is like an understatement for productivity. So that's what my view is.
Thank you. Before we go any further, ladies and gentlemen, we have a very influential and close friend of HostBooks, Shri Pawan Kaushik, who's also a known astrologer. Let's give it up for him, please. So, Kamalji, let me just flip that data question to the other side. I mean, one was about how does it help entities and government. How does it help, how does all of this data help the individual entrepreneur? And, or, for a simple entrepreneur, is it too much data? Could it confuse him?
Okay. So it's again a very interesting question, and pardon me for using some jargon of it. Okay.
Please.
So we all know Google. Now the question is, does it have information, or it has knowledge, or it has wisdom? Okay. So what is the difference between?
I would think wisdom is in the head, the rest is out there.
Absolutely. So now the question is that you have a lot of knowledge, which typically lies in the mind and head of that entrepreneur, and few sheets. That's a very scattered knowledge that is there, or rather I would say information that's scattered across various tables, various data, and in some pockets of his mind, some pockets of his pocket. And I won't be surprised if some files are lying in his car or scooter or wherever it is. Now, once that information is compiled into a tabulated form, which typically is what Neo would try to do, it becomes knowledge. It becomes knowledge when information is presented to the user in a structured way. That's kind of a knowledge which somebody can use. Okay, you can't use information like that unless, and the knowledge that is available to an entrepreneur. And don't underestimate an entrepreneur working on a street. Sometimes they give you a much better lesson than the B school guys. Once he apply his business acumen to that knowledge, okay, that's called the wisdom. Okay, so what I'm saying, too much data, yes, but once the data get collated, it becomes a very capsuled kind of a knowledge, okay, and it allows him to create better decisions. It becomes a wisdom, so that he can take better decisions, he can see through, and as Avtarsi said, that he can kind of remotely manages this thing. I would agree with him, the 40% productivity, actually there can be no limit you can ascribe to productivity, because I've seen many MSME these days sitting in remote places where the connectivity or even the transportation services were a challenge. Now these people using Amazon or Flipkart and all that, they're kind of supplying across the country. Okay, so you would have people sitting in tier, we talk about tier 2, tier 3, I would say tier 5 cities, probably a population of less than 5 lakh of city, and he would be supplying material to some 2,000 kilometers away. So that's kind of, and more the younger generation participating in that. That transformation is happening actually on the ground. And if you again, and that's very much needed, because not everybody is like Pitam ji, who's the topper on that side. I'm also been a topper if you start reading the table from the down. So there has to be a space for people like me as well. And that's where you apply the business acumen, you have knowledge, and you can convert that into a wisdom and create a great ecosystem which employ 15, 20 people of that caliber.
Thank you. Yes, please.
Let me just add what Kamalji said. In fact, this is a live example for one of our friends who was running a small restaurant. And every month, there used to be, the food would get stolen, and they would have no control over it. And then they started from one point, then they went to the other. But they were not able to control their purchases, and because what was being purchased was not actually being consumed, and that was not being sold. And then somebody suggested that why don't you put some software there? And today that entrepreneur is sitting in New York and handling her restaurants in Delhi. And just with that system that they had put in, and they are doing phenomenally well, and very, very happy ever since that whosoever gave them that suggestion. I think, so this is the need of the hour. Sorry?
Wherever
Potential
technology
pipeline.
has
Absolutely.
replaced human beings, it's worked out better. Pitamji, since we are at a HostBooks event, which itself is a great example of a successful startup, every startup at some point is an MSME. In fact, every startup starts out as an MSME. So far, we've been discussing at the at the last mile and the micro level. How do you think services like Neo can help startups that have the possibility of scaling tomorrow, but today they are MSMEs? How do you think this can be of help to them? How do you think the data can help them scale?
So, how often do you check your mailbox in a day?
As depends on notifications. Actually, I don't have to check.
So, when we talk about any of an entrepreneur, if you dedicate your whole day in just checking your mailbox, at the end of the day, you just realize that you have done nothing for the day. So you need to fix your time for checking your mailbox, maybe thrice a day, 4 times a day, and thereafter you can dedicate your time for actually doing the productive work. Same is the case with the MSME and any of the startup. We totally understand that startup or an MSME, the startup was once an MSME. So it must have been started by only 2-3 individuals who have an idea in their particular mind. For them to execute that particular idea is of the paramount importance. Giving time to and looking for the documents is not something they would be, they would want themselves to be involved upon. So this digitalization, this new software which you're talking about, definitely would help to reduce the time for the entrepreneur, for the owners, for these startups. The second thing is the scalability, which you all talked about. Is the scalability with regard to the pan-India, the global area. It's not just driving 2 kilometers. It's having a connection maybe 2,000 kilometers down the line. Globally, you have the connections with these softwares. When you have digitally network, instead of having a platform at a particular area, you are able to trace it anywhere, anywhere in the globe itself. Maybe in the sky, maybe downside. There also you can have an analysis of the data which is there for your entrepreneur. So these are the two main things which will help for an MSME or startup to kick back and expand exponentially.
Okay, so before we go to the Q&A, I would like some comments from all the panelists. And again, we would like to push the bar of that question a little further. What more can be done? And Avtarji, if you could just.
So if the question is what can happen because now there is digital access for the MSME or the entrepreneur. I have seen in my own experience, and I don't want to quote company names here, people who were purely selling kirana in the smaller towns are now actually almost an agent for multiple companies. On one end, okay, I'll give you a name. You heard a company called Vakrangi. They have a store. It's a small store with this 350, 400 square feet. And they provide you multiple services. Now, this is a model which is created only for multi-service. But if you just switch to the village model and a small town model, the shopkeeper who was selling pure kirana to the villagers now actually has the ability to provide financial services, train ticketing, collection services, even the deliveries for the goods which are being ordered through the e-com space, even to work as a pickup place for reverse of that if there is a return to be done. And each of the service actually has a component of fee income which potentially can be generated. Now, this cannot be done if you're not connected. If you're not part of the connected environment and are empaneled and have been trained, and all those things are part and parcel of this. So what you can do with technology is unlimited actually. Somebody said you can become a global company. The reality is technology is global. Google has no real, I can access my mail from anywhere in the world, right? So this becomes a model where you are almost like the last mile for enormous number of services. How much you can handle, what is the area in which you are, and what are the services which are relevant. I've seen examples where people have started booking train tickets in those areas because the station is not far from there. There are collection agencies which do not employ, take people on their payroll anymore, but they hire these agents where you can come and give cash, 300 rupees EMI if it is delayed and all that. So there are multiple examples. So I think, but the important thing for us to understand is technology is a big enabler. It allows you to expand your business horizon. It allows you to spend time on productive things. It also has the ability to seamlessly expand the pie of the revenue share, because fundamentally more and more digitization happening across the globe is creating more and more opportunity. And this expansion is not just in your space. Globally, the tech is playing a very significant role, and there will be multiple such opportunities. We'll keep adding.
I completely concur. Before I moved to Gurgaon, I was in Bhogal, and that's where I saw the Kirana shops were basically offering everything, literally everything. And the stunning part was they were not there as distributor layer. They were there as the final consumer layer. This dude was giving services of Paytm. So he had a Paytm, and whatever you want, he will just do it on the Paytm. And people are willing to pay for that convenience.
No, if Paytm comes, definitely in the payment. Today you can go to a village shop, open a bank account, buy insurance, a two-wheeler, personal, medical, You can even go and avail Government of India services through the CSC centers, which are nothing but these stores. In some states like UP, there are women entrepreneurs being pushed by the state government to actually become owners, and not their husbands. I'm talking about the ladies in the house. And then there are a lot of these things which are now very clearly visible because technology has enabled all of that, and all of these are small but continuous revenue streams.
Yes. I mean, what I was getting to is, I mean, you go to the shopkeeper and say, "Bhaiya, bijli ka bill pay karna hai." He just picks out Paytm and uses it as a user. I mean, the guy who went to the shop could have done it on his own smartphone. But he went to this shop because he's not very familiar and he's willing to pay that guy some money. So that was the interesting bit over there. Sir, your thoughts on the same. What more can we do, and how do you think it'll impact all of us?
I think the spread of technology is limited by your imagination only. To the extent you can imagine, you can do it. And just to extend the examples, you can book puja at Vaishno Devi through technology. Yes. Okay, you can book it and you can participate. Who could have thought without technology? It's not possible. So, not having technology, not having techno-savvy is not an option anymore. Okay, you have a lot of energy, you have a lot of knowledge, wisdom, all that, which is like blood in a body. But where the blood has to go, that has some direction, that has to come. That is where technology comes into picture. That where you focus your energies, where you see the potential. And India is a wealth of these opportunities. Okay, let's say you take the example of Biswajit. The areas where he comes from, it's a huge amount of handicraft, which is kind of unheard of. Yes. There are people, there are artisans which has been awarded by President of India. They create a masterpiece. Okay, you could be amazed at what quality of effort, what fine work these people do. Okay, can it be spread? Can it be sent? Can it be showcased across the world?
I just met a startup
Yeah.
I just met a startup the other day, a lady who's actually sourcing these products from Orissa and those regions, and she's turning it into expensive gifts.
These kind of handicrafts or these kind of village level products, they exist in almost every district of this country. Every district has something unique to offer. So this can be only enabled by technology. And if we can use this technology to that extent, probably what we talk about, the hunger deaths in this country, okay, I believe technology is the only way to eliminate those, because you can reach that level. And probably today people may not have enough food, but they have a smartphone. Okay, so almost everybody has a smartphone. Every kid has a smartphone. These people can use it or misuse it. All that goes on with it. But lot of potential in country like us, which is so diverse, which are so full of vibrations, full of energy. Okay, it's only channelizing, connecting the dots. And once those dots are connected, we have the complete ecosystem. There's nobody stopping this country.
Thank you, sir. Let me just push that question a little further to the other remaining panelists when it comes to what more can we do from a business perspective. As a businessman, what are the other opportunities when it comes to digitization of compliances for MSMEs that can be explored? Where do you see the new opportunities opening up? Pitamji?
So I will take our all live example, before COVID and after COVID. We used to go to the client meeting, and you must, in your organization also, you must be having your meeting physically itself. So virtual meetings becoming a common pattern. This was only because of a simple reason that technology was there even before COVID. But we actually used this technology after COVID because we were pressurized to use this technology for doing our businesses. What we talk about the technology with regard to any of the accounting or the billing software, or with regard to any of the technology aspect, until and unless you have that in your mind that you shall be using this technology, that is the point you shall be using this technology. No one else will be making this technology to be used in your business itself. But let me make you very clear. In case you use technology in your business, that is the best point when you will have the multiples with regard to your targets which you have in your mind. With this technology, Kapilji might be sitting in US and would be managing his whole business, whole organization, and discussing all lots of things which you need to do with Vishwajit ji, what you need to do, what plans you have in Delhi. The third thing, my recent experience, I was coming from Vaishno Devi, and my train was there in the night itself. I was down at 3 p.m., so I took my phone out and I had a view what best I can do at Katra, and I booked a movie along with my friends and I went for a movie. This was only because of technology. In case the technology was not there, I would have been sitting in my hotel itself, and thereafter at 7 o'clock in the night, I would have taken the train back to Delhi. So it's only because of technology, but what is stopping technology from being used is yourself. So you need to introspect yourself and you need to analyze how this technology would help you. But this is very sure, this is a decade and this is the era of technology, and technology will overtake each and every one of us. If you see the current valuations in the economy also, the technology-based business, the SaaS-based business, the cloud-based business are fetching high valuation comparable to the businesses which have a physical location. So this is up to you how you need to use, but the usage is limitless.
Vikramji, your thoughts, please.
I actually echo what Pritamji said, but just to add to what he said, there's another quote from Bhagavad Gita which I'm really, really fond of, and I quote every time I'm stuck anywhere. And so we are kept away from our goal, not by obstacles, but a clear path to a lesser goal. So what we have is a clear vision in front of us that technology is what is there for future. And I am reminded of our Honorable Prime Minister's speech on the 15th of August, which he gave, which marks the 75 years of India's independence. And he said that to mark 100 years of our country in 2047, he said there are 5 pledges that we need to take. And he says the first pledge is, I urge youth to dedicate next 25 years of their lives for the nation's development. We will work towards development of entire humanity. The second, he said, we should not try to become like others. Not to ape any other country. We have our own individuality. There should be no trace of slavery in our mindset, which I feel very, very strongly that when you step out of the country, you feel that there is no, trace of slavery in our mindset. Our talent gets stuck due to language barrier. The third is when we are connected to our roots, only then we can fly high. When we fly high, we will provide solutions to the entire world. In fact, India is at that stage that we don't need to look at any other country for any support. And the fourth is we should be united as a people to work towards the upliftment of the entire nation. And the fifth is we should all fulfill our duties towards the nation. And I think the launch of NEO is at a very, very important event that has happened. And each step that all of us take unitedly will be in the upliftment of our country. That's what my thought.
Thank you, everybody. While I have a ton of questions that has come via the online medium, I'm kind of biased to our brethren in this room, so I'm going to throw the floor open in case anybody has any questions. And if you've been listening, I am pretty sure you will. Anyone? Gentleman over there, if you could get a microphone over to him. No issues? I will come to you, sir. No problem.
Thank you very much. I will like to hear about 2 things in this: how data security and how the data privacy will be managed in this particular.
So, HostBooks actually has been in the business for some time. This is our new product launch, which is going to extend it to the mobile side. And we are a cloud-hosted solution. So all the security parameters which are required both by the regulatory environment as well as offered by the large cloud providers, there are 3-4 names which everybody knows, are definitely applicable. On top of that, we do have our company-wide policies around data security, privacy, and who can access what. And obviously, client information is the ultimate secret information. So that entire policy set is there. So this is like, because one of the things you need to know is that HostBooks is fully integrated with the banking system of the country. And when you deal with the banks, every bank has very detailed requirements which need to be met before you can really integrate and become a partner. So all those things are already there in place.
See, my question was for one reason only, because we go to the market a lot of times, and every small business owner or a medium-sized business owner has only one problem. He is not ready to accept the new technology or new, just because of he has a fear that he's already too much burdened by big players. Might be whatever he has, it goes off. So that is a concern of asking the question.
No, I fully appreciate the question and the concern. The understanding I have, and I have a fair amount of interest in cybersecurity, by the way, and I advise a couple of global companies. The fact is the point of compromise in most cases is the human. It's not the technology, contrary to the understanding. Because it's the tempting nature of the invites which we get, which we quickly say yes, open, is when we compromise. So I think education-wise, if you look at even the government of India, there is, RBI in particular, under the financial literacy, one of the big push is to make sure that every individual understands that with technology comes the cyber risk. And that education process is ongoing. But in our case, we are very clear that our systems are fully secure, they are compliant with all the requirements, and our partners are all banks, which are obviously very, very well monitored by the government. Our ability to educate our own customer is parcel of our proposals.
Okay,
So that remains, and by the way, this area is going to continue to grow, so you can't say that this is going to come to an end. More the technology, higher the cyber risk. And the only solution is awareness. And then obviously beyond awareness, some extra controls which are driven by technology, so that if somebody misses something, there is a second check which is inbuilt. In fact, today if you look at it, I think only yesterday, one large bank, without getting into the names, they have a ICICI Direct, I'll give you the name, doesn't matter. They have implemented this idea that to log in, you need to have an OTP. So there are a lot of additional checks which are being built. And good news is India as a country has built infrastructure which is best in the world in terms of national infrastructure. Whether it's Aadhaar, whether it's no other country has this level of national infrastructure. And that is being leveraged to actually strengthen the security. Before two-factor authentication came into play, there was only one password, and if you shared that one password, you were done. Today, at least, there is another layer. So there are a lot of those things, but in our security, in terms of how we built it, it's all there as per the regulatory ask, plus our own thinking, plus the fact that we are hosted on cloud.
Thank you so much.
Anybody else? No? Gentleman over there.
Hello everyone, thanks. So I want to ask if my business grows on a different level and my turnover is very high now. So do I need to shift to some other app, or this is suffice for me?
There is no shifting required. The reason is you heard the word dual, right? So it's an extension of our HostBook offering. So it is, you can actually do both. It's not that if you do this, you can't do the other one. If you're big enough and you have a need, you can access the system even on your desktop.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, so then I'm going to take one from the online space, which is directed at the panel. What are the changes that what are the challenges you've experienced post-COVID in providing solutions to the MSME sector, especially with respect to online services and mobile applications? Somebody, anybody would like to take that? Vikramji or Pitamji?
I said it all earlier also. So after COVID, everything when we talk about it has become digitalization, and technology has played a very, very important role. It is just that we have realized that technology is a part for us. It's not that it is something which is indifferent from us. It is something which we need to move in parallel with them. So technology is something which we need to all inherit upon, and better we inherit today, better we would be 5 years down the line. 5 years down the line, if we inherit, we will be down by more than 2 decades. So this is the thing which we need to understand upon.
Add what Pitamji just said, that pandemic actually taught us the technology, because we were all from the old school of thoughts, at least I am still from, that till the time we meet the client and we have the feel of the paper, we would not finalize any balance sheet or any account. But it's the technology. In fact, the first wave of pandemic, when it hit, we didn't know how to finalize a balance sheet without meeting the client. And that was for the first time we took that step, and we are so glad that we took that step, that yes, we could do and finalize an account without even actually visiting the client. And the other thing which had actually helped us for a firm of our size, that technology helped us that in utilizing our resources, which was a big step for a firm like ours, because we wanted resources in Mumbai or say in Delhi, an assignment is coming in, and we have extra resources in one of our branches in Hyderabad or Chennai, which for all these years, the firm has been in existence for 75 years. For all these 75 years, we've never been able to utilize it. But it's only during the pandemic that we realized how we can utilize those resources. So it's been a big, big boon for us. That's what I wanted to share, a personal example.
Thank you. As interesting as this session is, all good things in life come to an end, and so does this panel discussion. Thank you, Avatarji, Vikramji, Pitamji, and Kamalji. Thank you, everybody, and we will move on to the next one. Thanks. HostBooks has been at the HostBooks has been at the cutting edge of accounting and billing solutions, and today has a very special place in the enterprise accounting market. Founded in 2017, HostBooks has grown in leaps and bounds under the able leadership of Kapilji and Biswajitji. Let's take a quick look at some of our milestones and the journey so far.
It's all about humanity. We about to turn it on. We about to turn it on.
As someone who spent a lot of time in advertising, I can tell you that is a beautiful logo. Congratulations. So now, for the moment we are all waiting for, I would like to invite Kapilji and Biswajitji to address the floor before we get on with this special moment. Please, sir.
Thank you all. I'm little emotional आज थोड़ा सा 2018 में ये जर्नी स्टार्ट की थी हमने प्रोडक्ट कंपनी के हिसाब से मतलब जिसको बोलते डिग्निफाइड प्रोडक्ट कंपनी के हिसाब से ऑब्वियसली जर्नी 2016 से स्टार्ट हुआ है कब 7 साल हो गए हैं पता नहीं चला जरा बहुत सारी चीज़ें इसके बीच में हुआ है मैंने मतलब ये स्पीच मेरा थोड़ा सा डिफरेंट है। लास्ट एक साल से मैं बहुत सारे इन्वेस्टर को अपना होस्ट बुक को सेल कर रहा हूँ, बहुत सारे फोरम में होस्ट बुक को रिप्रेजेंट कर रहा हूँ, बहुत सारे जगह पे एज ए मॉडरेटर, एज ए स्पीकर जा रहा हूँ। बट दिस इज समथिंग डिफरेंट। आज जो मैं यहाँ पे हूँ और जो मैं बात कर रहा हूँ, ये मैं अपनी दिल की बात बोल रहा हूँ। आई एम नॉट सेलिंग एनीथिंग। ये जो परिवार हमने क्रिएट किया होस्ट बुक की फैमिली, दिस होल थिंग इज डेडिकेटेड टू होस्ट बुक फैमिली, दी मेंबर्स हु आर आउट हियर। हम सब लोगों के लिए होस्ट बुक एक जुनून है, एक सपना है, एक आत्मा है, अहंकार है। हम लोग जितने भी है यहाँ पे होस्ट बुक के लिए जीते हैं। हमारी फैमिली सारे होस्ट बुक के लिए जितना सपोर्ट किया है, इट कैन नॉट बी इमेजिन्ड, सोच भी नहीं सकते हैं। ये 2020 तक जब ये कोविड स्टार्ट हुआ, उससे पहले हमारी फ्लाइट काफ़ी अच्छा था, हम बहुत मेहनत करते थे, काम करते थे। सडनली 2020 हैपेंड एंड हम लोग एक डिफरेंट शेप में आ गए। जो सोच था बहुत बड़ा सोच था, और उस सोच को कैरी करना था। यू नो व्हाट हैपेंड इन 2020 टू 6-7 महीने तक जो हुआ है। बट द टीम, द फैमिली, जिस तरह से जुड़ के रहे ये फैमिली, जिस तरह से ये फैमिली ने अपने आप को संभाल के रखा है, ये फैमिली तो फ्रंट एंड करते थे, उनके पीछे जो उनकी फैमिली थी जो सपोर्ट प्रोवाइड की, आई थिंक सबके लिए नमस्ते, मतलब थैंक यू फॉर एवरीथिंग। आज अगर ये प्रोडक्ट लॉन्च हो रहा है, हम लोग यहाँ पे खड़े हैं, दिस इज़ बिकॉज ऑफ यू पीपल। आप लोगों ने जितना एफर्ट किया, जितना अपने आप को डेडिकेट किया, जितना अपने आप को एक्सप्रेस किया, इज़ अनथिंकेबल, अनइमेजिनेबल। मैंने बहुत सारे जगह पे काम किया, बहुत सारे स्टार्टअप्स में काम किया, एंड हर जगह पे ना कहीं पे सेल्फिशनेस होता है कि मैं आगे बढ़ूँ, मेरा डिपार्टमेंट अच्छा आगे बढ़े। बट व्हाट आई फील दैट इन होस्ट बुक्स, और ये होस्ट बुक की फैमिली में ये कल्चर एटलीस्ट नहीं है। देयर इज ए कोलाबरेटिव एफर्ट, कोहेसिवनेस। हम बहुत लड़ाई करते हैं, आपस में बहुत सारी लड़ाई करते हैं। कोई एक ऑर्डर आता है तो उसकी प्राइसिंग के लिए बहुत सारी लड़ाई करते हैं, बट जब वो ऑर्डर आता है, देन वी फाइट टू कंप्लीट दैट ऑर्डर, नॉट टू इंटर डिपार्टमेंटल डिफरेंसेस नहीं होती है। ये जो कल्चर बनी है, ये जो भाईचारा बना है, ये आगे चलता रहे। होस्ट बुक आई थिंक मेरी उम्र जितना है उसको आगे जाए, बहुत बड़ी कंपनी बने और हम लोग सब साथ काम करें। आई विल टेक फ्यू नेम्स, आई थिंक यू ऑल हैव टू कम ऑन टू दी डायस। राज सर, पीयूष, संदीप, अजय सर, दुष्यंत, नीरज, शुभम, आशीष, भरत, राकेश, वरुण, खालिद, सुभाष जी, ये जो टीम हम देख रहे हैं, ये है होस्ट बुक को यहाँ तक लेके आने वाली टीम है। आई विल call few team members who will take the journey from here to next level. I think Ritesh, please come. Srini sir, Virender, Guru, Hemant, Susan ji, please. देवेंद्र, दौड़ गया। एंड दो लोग और भी बहुत मोरली इमोशनली सपोर्ट किए हैं, मोंगा सर एंड कमल सर। ये है एक्चुअली, मतलब बहुत सारे लोग मैंने बुलाया नहीं, बट These are the team leaders जिन्होंने ये होस्ट बुक को इस जगह पे पहुंचाए, and these are the team leaders who will take the host book to next level. Thank you.
This is the toughest job. I'm not a good orator, so excuse me if I do some blunders. Bisjit ne like told you about the host book journey started like 2017. ये आइडिया कहाँ से जनरेट हुआ था? आई वॉज लाइक डूइंग माई चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंसी और हमारे ऑफिस में लाइक 1000 ऑफ फाइल्स थे. एक फाइल को ढूंढने में एक एक घंटा लगता था. वी हैव ए डेडिकेटेड पर्सन टू फाइंड अ फाइल. कोई क्लाइंट आया उसके लिए, राइट. उसके बाद लॉट ऑफ क्लाइंट्स उनका अकाउंटिंग का वर्क था और मैनुअल अकाउंटिंग सॉफ्टवेयर, आई वांट टू नेम इट लाइक टैली ही एक अकाउंटिंग सॉफ्टवेयर था. उसके अलावा कोई सॉफ्टवेयर था भी नहीं उस टाइम पे. और ऑफिस में लाइक 2-3 अकाउंटेंट्स डेडिकेटेड टू डूइंग लाइक दिस डबल एंट्री अकाउंटिंग सिस्टम. सो एक एक्सपर्टीज चाहिए होती थी अकाउंटिंग के लिए भी. इस बैंक स्टेटमेंट आएगी, बिल आएंगे, वाउचर आएंगे और सारी एक एक चीज़ डालेंगे. उसके बाद अकाउंटिंग बनेगी, फिर उसके बाद आपका सर्विस टैक्स फाइल होगा या आपका सेल्स टैक्स और वैट फाइल होगा. सो अलग अलग TDS का अलग फाइल होगा. बहुत प्रॉब्लम्स थी और सिस्टम पे बैठ के ही काम करना पड़ता था, राइट. इन द नाइट अराउंड लाइक 12 o'clock और जो डेडलाइन पे 2-3 बजे तक काम करते थे ऑफिस में. सो मेरे दिमाग में एक आइडिया था कि आइडिया नहीं, एक प्रॉब्लम थी कि यार क्यों इतना काम करना पड़ता है, क्यों लाइक मैं आर्टिकल हूँ, मुझे पूरी टैली पे काम करना नहीं आता था, मैं एंट्री नहीं कर पाता था. तो प्रदीप जी थे, वो बताते थे कि कौन सी एंट्री कैसे होगी. मैं सोचता था यार मैं कब से लाइक 12th में मैं कॉमर्स पढ़ाया, ग्रेजुएशन किया, आई एम डूइंग माई चार्ट अकाउंटेंसी. सो मेरे से नहीं अकाउंटिंग होती, एक नॉर्मल बंदा क्या करता होगा. और डिपेंडेंसी भी इतनी थी कि सब बिजनेसमैन CA के ऊपर और क्या नाम आपका अकाउंटेंट के ऊपर डिपेंडेंट थे. उन्हें पता ही नहीं. और एक बिल काटेंगे यहाँ पे, फिर उसकी एंट्री होगी, ये 50 काम होंगे. सो आई थॉट कि अकाउंटिंग तो होनी नहीं चाहिए. अकाउंटिंग का काम क्या है? मैंने एक बिल काटा, ऑटोमेटिक इसकी एंट्री हो जाए. और मैंने एक बैंक ट्रांजेक्शन किया, ऑटोमेटिक हो जाए. एक सिंपल सा एग्जांपल है, लाइक आप TDS पे करते हो, आप बैंकिंग ऐप पे जाओगे, TDS पे करोगे, एक चालान जनरेट होगा, उस चालान की अकाउंटिंग करोगे. उसके बाद उसका टैक्स रिटर्न फाइल होती है, उसमें उसकी एंट्री करोगे और आपको एक फ़ाइल भी बनानी पड़ेगी. सो मैं सोचता था कि यार एक ऐसा नहीं हो सकता कि मैंने लाइक पेमेंट किया बैंक से और साथ के साथ चालान जनरेट हो जाए, साथ के साथ मैं सेव कर लूँ, इसकी ऑटोमेटिक लाइक एंट्री जहाँ जहाँ पे भी इसकी रिक्वायरमेंट है वो पोस्ट हो जाए ऑटोमेटिक और रिटर्न फाइल हो जाए. बट 2005-2006 उस टाइम पे ना तो ऐसा सिस्टम था. टैक्स भी हर स्टेट का अलग था, पता नहीं कितने सारे टैक्स थे, क्या था. सो इन 2015-16 US के लिए हमने पहले प्लान बनाया कि वी विल लॉन्च होस्ट बुक्स. वी वर इन सर्विस इंडस्ट्री और वी वर पार्टनर्ड विद इंटुइट और लॉट ऑफ लाइक टेक्निकल इश्यूज थे. वी हैव लाइक सोल्ड मिलियंस ऑफ प्रॉब्लम फॉर क्विक बुक इन US. देन वी डिसाइडेड टू हैव आवर ओन एप्लीकेशन, क्लाउड एप्लीकेशन होस्ट बुक्स. और 2017 लाइक 2015-2016 में स्टडी ग्रुप बने थे कि दे विल हैव GST इन इंडिया, बट वो फिगर आउट नहीं हो पा रहा था. बट जैसे ही लाइक मोदी गवर्नमेंट आई, इन्होंने 2017 में GST का लॉन्च किया. सो वी स्टार्टेड इन अर्ली 2017, जनवरी-फरवरी से हम लोगों ने स्टार्ट कर दिया था इस एप्लीकेशन पे काम करना. और जैसे ही आई गेस जुलाई 2017 में GST लॉन्च हुआ था. तो उसके बाद में आर प्लानिंग वाज टू प्रोवाइड एंड टू एंड सोल्यूशन टू ए बिजनेसमैन को अपने आप ही बहुत सारे प्रॉब्लम्स हैं. सो वाई टू लाइक गिव देम लाइक अकाउंटिंग प्रॉब्लम, टैक्स कंप्लायंस, ये इसमें माइंड क्यों लगाए एक बिजनेसमैन, राइट. एक 10,000 का, 15,000 का, 20,000 का एक सॉफ्टवेयर, एक सोल्यूशन उसे मिल सकता है. सो वो अपना टाइम, जो एक्स्ट्रा टाइम बचाएगा, अपने बिजनेस को लगाए, बिजनेस को एक्सपेंशन में लगाए, अपनी फैमिली को लगाए, अपनी बाकी चीज़ों में लगाए. वाई टू डू लाइक सिटिंग विद अकाउंटेंट और पूरी रात काम कर रहे हैं. नहीं, अकाउंटेंट की एक्चुअल में आई डोंट थिंक सो की कोई ज़रूरत है. जैसे ही सोर्स पे आपका कोई भी ट्रांजेक्शन होता है, लेट्स से बैंकिंग ट्रांजेक्शन हुई है, सो वी कैन हैव लाइक ऑटोमेटेड फीड और फाइनलाइजेशन तक का एक एरर भी उसमें ख़त्म हो जाएगी आपकी. सो ये हमारा प्लान था कि वी विल प्रोवाइड ऑल इन वन सोल्यूशन. और हमने इसे लाइक पैकेट्स में बनाना स्टार्ट किया. सबसे पहले हमने TDS लॉन्च किया, फिर हमने GST लॉन्च किया, एंड नाउ इट्स लाइक we have almost everything a business like required. It's like point of sale, it's like banking, accounting, TDS, GST, e-way bill, or the new concept is e-invoice. So the जो government का planning है कि they want to trace the transaction from source to final. So we are just stick to that. अभी like last year government ने बोला था कि like पीतम जी ने भी बताया कि जो transactions के trails हैं आपको maintain करने पड़ेंगे. But उस time पे I guess India में HostBooks अकेला सा software था जिसमें accounting और transaction के logs create होते थे और कोई software नहीं था उस time पे. So this is the journey, or I know the teamwork from my family. I'm son of a like poor farmer, और मुझे पता है कि how to do optimum things with minimum input, right? Not the maximum but the optimum. और how like team works. अकेला बंदा कोई कुछ नहीं कर सकता जब तक you don't have a good team. And to manage a good team, you have to be transparent. You have to sync their objectives with your objectives, right? This is my like kind of philosophy, and I just keep learning all the time. And thank you, Vishjit. Thank you all the guests. Thank you very much.
एक कपिल जी ने बोला कि हम अकाउंटेंट को एलिमिनेट करना चाहते हैं. वी आर नॉट एलिमिनेटिंग एनीथिंग. ईच इंडिविजुअल इज मेड टू डू सम बेटर जॉब. सो एक अकाउंटेंट और एक जो चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंट, ही कैन कंट्रीब्यूट मोर टू बिजनेस, मोर वैल्यू टू इकोनॉमी. सो जो छोटे काम हैं, हम जैसे एप्लीकेशन है, वी विल मैनेज दैट. ईच इंडिविजुअल नीड टू डू बेटर थिंग टू ऐड मोर वैल्यू टू द इकोनॉमी.
So I have an example for this. मैंने कभी ना एक छोटी सी कहानी पढ़ी थी कि स्वामी विवेकानंद जी को ना एक नदी पार करनी थी. सो कोई दूसरे गुरुजी थे, उन्हें इंसल्ट करना था स्वामी विवेकानंद जी को, राइट? तो उन्होंने पानी पे चल के दिखाया विवेकानंद जी को, राइट? कि मैंने 10 साल 15 साल प्रैक्टिस किया है, पानी पे चलना सीखा है. तो स्वामी विवेकानंद जी ने बोला यार 15 साल खराब कर दिए, मैं इस नाव वाले को 25 पैसे दूंगा और मैं क्रॉस कर लूँगा, राइट? सो दिस इज द सॉफ्टवेयर. Why to spend 15 years to learn how to walk on water? You can have a software like if you apply the same concept in business.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Shall we? Come on, mate. The audience is literally dying of anticipation. There we go. Okay, I am being told our honorable guests Vikramji and Pavanji are dying to get their hands on this app to test it out. Well, sir, the wait is over. I invite you, sir, onto the dais. We will have a countdown, and then I guess we can then just get that done. Please, sir, please give them a hand. All right, guys, hit it. Cut the lights, hit it.
The show starts in 5,
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
go.
Ladies and gentlemen, Neo is live. Thank you. Dhanyavad. हो गया करा. Aren't we all having a blast? I would like to invite Shri Vikramji and Pavanji on stage for the cake cutting ceremony.